Hello and welcome to a special edition of the NBL1 show thanks to Coles Express. I'm Megan Hustwaite. Well, right around the country this weekend, we will be painting stadiums and basketball courts pink for Play for BCNA, raising awareness and crucial funds for Breast Cancer Network Australia. And it ties in with Mother's Day too, which is really nice. So stay tuned across our socials and the NBL1 app to see how teams and conferences right around Australia turn everything pink for a great cause. Also coming up today, we chat to a great NBL1 story, Nicole Munger from the Newcastle Falcons, and we'll hear about how this league literally changed her life. We're also going to catch up with our experts right around the nation, so let's crack into it. Well, it might sound unusual to say that NBL1 has changed the course of someone's life, but that is exactly the case for our guest on the NBL1 show this week. She was a star with Newcastle in the NBL1 last season, and she actually set the scoring record for most points in a game. But what happened next would change the course of her life, both on and off the court. Her name is Nicole Munger, and she joins me now. Welcome, Nicole.
Oh, thank you so much, Megan. You're the best.
You are the best too, because your journey in NBL1 with Newcastle last season led to a completely new path, and that was signing with the UC Capitals in the WNBL. And it's changed your life.
Oh, completely. I mean, what a whirlwind of a year. It's been so incredible. I know I came over last year and I was like 10 weeks late. But, immediately being in Newcastle, I fell in love with the community, fell in love with the people, and fell in love with Australia. And, I'm so blessed with the people around me, and really to give me a chance. I get to go to Canberra, and now I'm back. So it's been unreal.
It is a bit of a homecoming for you. Life has changed so much for you since this time last year when you were playing your first season in Australia with the Falcons. What was it like to get back and see your Falcons family after the Canberra experience?
Oh, it was so cool. I got to come back for Christmas for like 2 or 3 days, and that was really about it. So when I came back for NBL1 this year, it was really just like a reunion, and I was really, really thankful. I got to see a lot of people that helped me get to Canberra last year and live that dream. It was really cool just to see them, say thank you, and just get to be back. I call this my home in Australia, so it's been cool to see a lot of my family, as I like to call them.
Let's talk about your campaign with Newcastle last season, because you set the record for most points in an NBL1 game with 53 points, and you join amazing company to have scored a 50 piece when we think of the likes of Keely Froling, Steph Reid, Michaela Ruth. It put you on the map here in Australia, but what was it? How did you get to Canberra? Because you signed with them after the WNBL season started, but can you tell us a bit about how you got to the Caps?
Oh, I mean, just a blessing, really. I was going over to train on a training contract, so I was pretty much just going to be in training. And the week that I went over, I actually got an offer from another team in Spain. So I didn't tell the Spanish team that I was coming, but I pretty much told them we need to talk. And then I let Vili know. I said, "Hey, coach, I need to call you, we need to have a conversation," and pretty much told her I was going to Spain. And then she said, listen, just come up, just train with us today, tomorrow it was. And then it was really cool, when I got up there, she was like, listen, we had a spot open up, if you want it, it's all yours. And that was, since then, it's just been so incredible, so many people to thank that helped me get there. But it was, the experience of a lifetime last year, just picking up and going, and, credit to a lot of my teammates and the coaching staff at the Caps. I didn't know what I was in for, but it was just a roller coaster, and they helped me get there every day. So it was pretty cool.
I think you create your luck, and it's such a wonderful story. And you were in the right place at the right time, but you earned that opportunity. And once you got on the court for Canberra, your impact was so instant that you then became a starter in the WNBL. And I think your reaction to that sort of sums it up. What have been your reflections after a whirlwind debut WNBL season?
Oh, I think the biggest thing is just thankful. I was working here in the stadium on a Wednesday, and the next Wednesday I was in Adelaide suiting up to play Steph Talbot and the Lightning. So never did I expect it, and then to have a starting spot, didn't expect that at all. So really my reflection is just being really thankful to Vili everyone there, the people here. I mean, I've been put in great places and have just been really thankful to meet incredible people. And really, that's all it's about. The basketball takes care of itself. It's really about all the other stuff.
It's amazing to hear. You mentioned Steph Talbot. Is there anyone else that was a real highlight to match up on against?
Oh, there was somebody every game. I mean, just the likes of Sammy Wickham playing LJ. You can go down the list literally from every single team. And then even my teammate getting to meet Jade. I coached in America a couple of years ago, so I would go back and forth with Jada all the time saying, listen, I tried to recruit you. And obviously she didn't say yes to Fordham. She ended up going, saying yes to a school in Arizona and then made a great decision to stay here in Australia. But it's been pretty cool, to say that to her too. So it's been, all my idols, just getting to suit up against them. I usually get nervous when I'm playing defense on them. So it's cool.
I think people right around NBL1 and the WNBL are getting nervous having to play defense on you now. What's your second season been like at Newcastle? You've been putting up great numbers, but obviously there's been some changes to the group. And how are you enjoying your second campaign with the Falcons?
Oh, yeah, a lot of changes, but I think it's incredible. Last year, like I said, I came in 10 weeks late, so to build those relationships and then get to play with the team was a bit difficult because it was expedited. This year, I have the relationships with all my teammates and everybody in town, so it's really cool for me to get to build on that. And it's not even on the court stuff, it's just off the court stuff too, which is really cool. I get to coach a lot, coaching the 16 girls, which has been incredible. They're lovely. They work so hard and they're really just great people. And then getting to coach some of the younger ones in the organization, even younger than that, and just have an impact that way. I think, it's great to play basketball, but to do that stuff is a lot more fun for me. So it's been pretty cool.
So you've immersed yourself in the Newcastle community, coaching junior girls, as you said, went home and spent Christmas there, and they were so happy for you when you got your WNBL opportunity. How great has it been to become part of the Newcastle family and the Falcons family too?
Oh, incredible. I'm thankful that they want me back. It's been unreal. It's just a great city, great town, great people, and I think that's what makes everything about it special. And then on top of that, just the basketball, getting to play in the Broad Meadow Basketball Stadium every couple weeks, every Saturday, every other Saturday, it's really special. Really great fan sport. And I think, it's really growing here. We have a new stadium coming, hopefully in a couple of years. So it's a really great spot for basketball, Newcastle basketball, and also basketball New South Wales. So pretty cool.
You're a wonderful basketball story, Nicole Munger, and a ripper human as well. We're so lucky to have you in NBL1 and also in the WNBL. Thank you for sharing your story with us today, and we look forward to watching the rest of your campaign in NBL1 East.
Oh, you're the best, Megan. Thank you for having me.
Well, the action's heating up north in NBL1 North. And when we talk about that conference, we talk to our man there, John Guana. Welcome, John. And there was some big news in the men's action at the weekend because one team has experienced their first defeat.
One team, and it was the one team that hadn't tasted defeat yet. That was left in the men's side of things. It was the Ipswich Force. They went down to Southwest 98-91 just on Sunday, and it was a great win for the Southwest Metro Pirates. They are on a real roll. Ipswich was playing with fire all season. They were let teams hang around, and they'd just kind of be able to pull it out in the end. Against Southwest, though, they had the lead in the fourth, or going into the fourth quarter. Southwest had a 30-17 run in the fourth quarter to come away with a 98-91 win over the Ipswich Force. Let's give the Pirates a lot of credit. Lamar Patterson, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Also had 4 steals in that one. Kai Woodfall had 20 points. Ben Volkman, another double-double, 18 points, 13 rebounds. And Southwest, they're rolling now. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and taking down the team at the top of the ladder that was undefeated will even boost that confidence further.
We're going to talk about MVP picks a bit later, John, but surely you and I would have to be leading the race for the Pirates as co-MVP winners, because since we've been talking about them every week, they have been rolling.
Well, they better give credit where credit's due, Megan. We want a piece of that for sure. I know we're not doing it for them on the court, but we're providing that extra motivation for sure.
We sure are. Let's talk about the Gold Coast because they swept a very big and important double.
They certainly did, and it feels like we're talking about this again because we are. But Gold Coast went up to Mackay and got a nice win on Friday night over Isaac White and the Meteors, and then they backed it up with that win against Rockhampton on the weekend as well. So that Mackay-Rockhampton doubleheader is a huge one for any team. To pick up 2 wins in those 2 games is huge. And the thing that Gold Coast would be most happy about was not only did they hit triple digits themselves, but they held both Mackay and Rockhampton to under 90 points each in those games. So when you look at that Gold Coast team with the firepower they have, led by Jason Kadee, Tanner Krebs had a great game against Mackay and had a great double weekend, as did Todd Blanchfield. They have so much firepower defensively. If they can hold teams to that 90, 85 mark, man, you got to look out for that Gold Coast Rollers team. And I feel like we haven't kind of talked about them enough, but they are looking really dangerous and playing, again, with a lot of confidence. You beat Mackay and Rocky on the road in that doubleheader. You're putting yourself in a good spot, and Gold Coast did it this past weekend.
Absolutely, they are so tough. They have so much depth, and as their name suggests, they are rolling. Now, let's talk about Rip City, because, John, what is the latest on them?
Well, Rip City is still looking for their first win of the season since Kawat rejoined the group. And again, please don't take this the wrong way. Kawat is an amazing player, but the Rip seemed to have not really found their stride with him back in the group. He's playing really well. He had 22 points and 16 rebounds in a loss against Logan. 10 of those rebounds were offensive rebounds, but unfortunately, Rip City lost the second game in a row, 98-90. Let's give credit where credit's due. Logan had all 5 starters in double figures. Boston Maslin led the way. He had 25 points, 5 of 5 from 3. Majok Deng also had a great game with 25 points and 7 rebounds. But this Rip City group, they have championship aspirations. They made it to the grand finals last year, unable to lift the trophy. They recruited so well. They've got so much talent, and Kawat Noi is right up there with the best players in this competition. He just needs a little more time, I think, to get himself used to playing with these new faces that Rip City have brought in. They are too talented to continue this losing streak. I'm sure that they'll pick up a win sooner rather than later, I would say, with Noi back in there. But it's just interesting to see that he's come back for 2 games, and they've dropped those 2 tight games, really close. And I suspect that they'll pick up a few wins before the season's out.
Yeah, they're just getting to know each other again, so we'll watch that space. Now, before the weekend's action, there were 3 undefeated teams left in NBL1 North. As we mentioned, Ipswich suffered their first loss, so now the 2 teams left undefeated are both in the Women's Conference.
Yeah, they certainly are, and they are the same 2, believe it or not, that walked into the weekend undefeated. Isn't that funny how it works? It is the Northside Wizards and the Darwin Salties. The Wizards were a team that everyone, like I said, thought that would be there at the end of the season. They picked up a huge win, 84-49 over Red City. They are really rolling, and Courtney Woods is leading the way. 26 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Almost a triple-double for Courtney Woods. She's kind of slid into that point guard role while Tiana Munger is still playing over in Europe. And Northside really hasn't missed a beat. They have so much talent. AJ Johnson had 11 points and 13 rebounds, a big double-double. AJ is a player who can put up 20-plus on any given night. Nadine Payne also had 16 points. And then you look at Darwin. We weren't sure how they were going to do outside of Darwin. They went out on the road. They picked up some nice wins. They maintained that donut. Then they come back home and play a really tough Brisbane group, and they get a nice win at home, 92-84. It was second versus third on the ladder in that one. Unfortunately for the Capitals, Abby Kabila went down with a knee injury. We're not sure what her status is at that moment. Brisbane fought really, really well to keep themselves in it and give themselves a chance to win that one. But Darwin at home is super tough. Chelsea Brooks, 25 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Aaron Ballman, also another big one, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists as well. Darwin, Northside, undefeated. I said in the preseason it was going to be the men's matchup between Northside and Darwin that I was keeping my eye on. I might have to change it up a few rounds into the NBL1 North season.
We'll just pretend it was the women's that you called all along, but we hope Abby Kabila is okay. We wish her all the best. Now, 2 stars returning in NBL1 North at the weekend, and they both actually played against each other in the WNBL Grand Final Series.
They certainly did. Michaela Roof and Maddie Roche both making their return to the court in this NBL1 season. Michaela Roof played a game earlier in the year and then went over to the States to see her family. She hasn't seen her family for years from what I understand, so great for her to get back home, but great for us that she got back this weekend because Logan had a huge win, 91-57 over Rip City, and guess what Michaela did in her return? Triple-double, 17 points, 20 20 rebounds to go with 10 assists. Michaela Can had 24 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. When Michaela Roof is on the glass like that, and she is on the glass like that regularly in the NBL1 competition, Logan is such a tough team. And I like what they're doing. They're putting the ball in Michaela Roof's hands because it's a smart thing to do, and the rest of the team is going to be the beneficiaries of it. Michaela Can, like I said, 24 points. She's playing awesome as well, but so good to see Michaela Roof back on the court. And then Maddie Rochi also comes back, and the Pirates don't miss a beat. They pick up a 97-77 win over the Ipswich Force. Rochi had 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists. How about Lulu Twidell, the youngster who had to play a lot of point guard minutes without Maddie on the court? She slides over, and guess what? She could shoot the ball. She had 38 points in that one. Leah Scott also with the near double-double, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, near triple-double. Excuse me, Leah, don't let me cheat you that. But the Pirates are the beneficiary, and Logan as well, with these 2 superstars back on the court.
And you mentioned some of them there, but there were huge stat lines across the women's competition.
There were huge stat lines. We've mentioned Michaela Roof with the triple-double, 17 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists. Lulu Twidell had that 38 points. Man, just so good to see Lulu getting those points up. Steph Reed, how about this? We didn't even mention Steph Reed yet. 43 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. Not too bad, hey. Catherine Reese, who recently joined the Gold Coast Rollers, she's rolling right into the season. 37 points on the weekend to go with 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Maya Lloyd stepped up offensively with Abby Cabillo going out with that knee injury. She had 32 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists to keep the Caps in that game against Darwin. And, man, I mean, there's just so much offensive talent. There were huge stat lines. I could have probably given you half a dozen more, but we'll keep it there because I know we're tight.
There's so many huge performances, so many stars in NBL North. We love talking about them. Now, we've spoken about a few stars already, but John, we're getting, towards the mid-season time. So I want to know who your MVP selections are right now in the women's and men's.
I mean, I know you told me I could prep this, but there was a lot of preparation and a lot of deliberation going on up here for me on this one. I keep my eyes on things as always, and I do have a lot of players that I would be considering. If we're talking about at this point in the season, and I think that's what we're talking about, on the women's side of things, I definitely have to go with Courtney Woods. Courtney Woods has been amazing. She just carried a great WNBL season into NBL1 North. She's delivering offensively for her team. She is the go-to player for the Northside Wizards without Tiana Mangakahia there as well. We did mention earlier how much talent Northside has, but a lot of responsibility on Courtney Woods' hands to get the team going. She's a veteran leader with a fairly young group as well, and playing point guard is a very big difference for what Courtney Woods normally does. Having the ball in the hands, having the set the offense and get everyone involved, making sure everyone's in the spot that they need to be, handling the ball a lot more. She's not just having to score the ball and be playing off the ball. She's having it in her hands constantly, and she's done a great job. Northside's at the top of the ladder. They're undefeated. That's why I'm going with Courtney Woods on the women's side of things. On the men's side of things, I mean, this was a really tough one considering recent results, but I cannot go away from Isaac White. Isaac, I spoke to him in the preseason. He wanted that responsibility. One of the reasons he went up to Mackay was to be, quote unquote, the man. And that's not coming directly from Isaac, but that's what he said indirectly. He wanted the responsibilities on his shoulder, and Coach Kalu has empowered him to do that, and he's delivering. He's averaging just a shade under 35 points a game to go with 5 assists a game, almost 7 rebounds, and get this, he's shooting over 50% from the field. When you're able to produce like that, it's just a tremendous output. Mackay has hit a bit of a rough patch, which is why I was kind of contemplating differently, but let's see if Mackay and Isaac White could get the wins back and get back onto a winning streak. But for me, he's delivering week in and week out. Everyone knows it's going to be Isaac, and he's still able to step up and deliver. He had over 30 again against Gold Coast on the weekend in a loss, but to me, it's Isaac White. The other player that I was highly considering, and he's certainly still in the conversation, is Jason Kadey, because he is just unbelievable. I know that they have a lot of offensive weapons, but to me, Jason is just he is the best player in the competition, if you ask me. I know there's a difference between the best player and the MVP, which is why I have Isaac there at the moment. But between those two, and there's a few others in the discussion, but for me at this point in time, Isaac White.
It's hard to go past Isaac White and Courtney Woods, two players at the top of their games. And hey, Isaac White won 3 medals in 1 weekend. So if he can do that, he can do anything. John, great to catch up with you. Enjoy the weekend action ahead. And we look forward to wrapping up all that and more with you again next week on the NBL1 show.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, everyone.
Time to talk all things Central now with Tristan Prentice. Welcome, Tristan. A big weekend, of course, as always in the women's action. So let's get it underway.
Yeah, Megan, well, there were some streaks that remained intact, believe it or not, and some that nearly came to an end. We had the Lions of Central District nearly gave the West Adelaide Bearcats a scare in a near boil over. They were 1-10 on the ladder in 2022, Megan, but nothing could be further than the case that evening as the Lions gave last year's champions a big scare, 69-62 at the Bearcat Cave in Port Adelaide. Adelaide Lightning's Jasmine Fijo managed to stave off those hungry Lions with 24 points, 8 assists and 4 rebounds. The Lions were led by Jaden Delacerda with that extra content for DLC with 15 points, 8 rebounds and 6 assists. And Tiana Sears with a 14-point and 12-rebound double-double. And Amani Guy with 14 points and 7 rebounds nearly sprung the upset of the season, Megan. It would have been a good one if the Lions had gotten it.
Lions, Bearcats, it all sounds like characters out of a children's book, but we love this storyline, that's for sure. Let's talk about Georgia Smith because she's in some hot form.
Yeah, absolutely. Georgia's on our mind, Megan, and that's because she fired the Flames to cook the Eagles 59-72 at the Nest, and she came from the Women's British Basketball League with the Oakland Wolves over there. She was top 3 in three-point shooting in the WBBL over there, and really filled the whole, the absence of Ali Wilson on 3x3 duties, of course, with the Australian Kangaroos, of course. A scorching 25 points, including 5 triples for Georgia Smith to go with 5 assists and 4 rebounds. And not only that, Adelaide Lightning's Rachel Hines returned from injury for the Eagles to try and keep them in the contest. She had 17 points and 14 rebounds. So it was good to have Rachel Hines back, but it wasn't enough for the Forestville Eagles, who've now lost 2 in a row, and the Norwood Flames continue on their run.
Another instalment of the Southern Showdown, and this continues to be dominated by one club.
Oh, Megan, it's a thing now. It's a real thing for the Southern Tigers over the South Adelaide Panthers in the women. That is 8 straight since 2019 for the Southern Tigers. They have an unbeaten streak against the South Adelaide Panthers, and they continued at 62-79 at the Jungle in Mitchell Park. The Tigers did it by committee with Mariah Martin marching back into form with 16 points, 8 rebounds and 4 assists. And whilst Molly McKendrick accumulated 13 points and 9 rebounds and 4 assists and 2 blocks, Megan, it was actually Margot Hall once again who cameoed for the Tigers with 10 points and 4 rebounds. She's hurt the Panthers the last 3 times they played. I think it was 16, 10 and 10 in the last 3 games that she's dropped against this South Adelaide Panthers team. And Ash Spencer dropped 18 points for the Panthers in response to go with 6 rebounds. But at the moment, Maddie Clark and the Southern Tigers have it over Richard Dickle's South Adelaide Panthers. They're going to have to find an answer to that, especially if they meet in the finals later in the year, if it ends up that way.
Absolutely. Let's move across and turn our focus to the men's action now, because there were some really big standout performances by a few players.
A huge one came from the Forestville Eagles, and a lot of people know that this man is very capable of dropping these numbers. But Jake Rios, who spent most of 2022 on the bench watching a star-studded Forestville Eagles team, came back real strong in this one. He had 30 points with 6 triples and 4 rebounds in the Eagles' 7th win of the season, 96-59 at the Nest over the Norwood Flames. Adam Doyle added 14 points, 8 assists and 5 rebounds. For the Norwood Flames, was Colin Smith, their import, was the best in a tough night. He could only manage 12 points and 8 rebounds. That was the top score in the Norwood Flames that night. The Eagles were just on fire through Jake Rios, who really rocked them.
And then we had Riley, who was very rampant for the Rockets.
Absolutely, yeah. North Adelaide Rockets, Riley Harrop. He's been putting up some big stat lines over the past 6 months, but this was one of the bigger ones that we've seen from the captain of the North Adelaide Rockets. 32 points with 5 triples and 10 rebounds, 4 assists and 3 steals to help close out a 102-89 win over the Eastern Mavericks at the launch pad at the Lights. Very entertaining game. Akecha Lear also collected a massive block and set up Donovan Carlisle for a huge dunk. Monstered his way to 20 points and 17 rebounds. Coop McCallum played his former side and wreaked revenge on it with 17 points and 13 rebounds. But we have to give a massive shout out. We're talking about big stat lines. The Mavs Christian Shippertoni, also known as K Money here in the NBL1 Central, Megan, backed up 38 points from reserves on Tuesday for the Eastern Mavericks with 23 points off the pine, and even managed to hit a cheeky fourth quarter buzzer beater from half court as well, did K Money, and along with import Jack Hemphill, who's having a really great season, 20 points and 10 rebounds, kept them in the game. But unfortunately, the Eastern Mavericks just couldn't get the firepower over the top of the North Adelaide Rockets, who are scoring a lot of points at the moment, Megan. Defense is where the question marks still are for North Adelaide in the men's.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see if they can tighten it up. Let's finish with the Sabers because they are on a winning run.
Yeah, well, they're on a 3-game winning streak now, the Sturt Sabers. They've taken care of a few of the teams down the lower end of the table, but they turned it up on Saturday night. A second half turnaround of 68-44. They beat the Woodville Warriors, who were, of course, in last year's grand final, 89-84 at the Cave at Springbank. New Adelaide 36ers signing Keanu Rasmussen dropped 11 in the second half to finish with 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 big blocks. But it was actually their captain, Jack Turnbull, and I was at this game on the weekend, Megan, and he dropped some big threes down the stretch. 14 points in the second half with 4 triples to finish for the Sabres to lead them home. Devin McGee, once again for the Woodville Warriors, came off the pine for a 17-point, 11 rebound double-double. But unfortunately, the Warriors couldn't find an answer, and they're just struggling a little at the moment. But you know they'll turn it around under Scott Whitmore, obviously making that grand final last year. They'll be in it. Don't worry about that.
Now, we've been getting some MVP early contender tips from our conference experts around the country this week. And of course, our MVP awards have names which are steeped in history in Central. So, Tristan, we're after your early contenders for the Halls and Woolacott medals.
Yeah, the Halls medal for the women's. It's a little bit of an open race at the moment between 4 or 5 individuals, but I'm going to name 4 at the moment that I think are in the running. And one is Michaela Williams, of course, for the Sturt Sabers, averaging 18.3 points, 11.6 rebounds, likely to have polled in every game so far this season in all of Sturt's wins, no doubt. Then you flip over to the Southern Tigers and you've got Molly McKendrick, who's in absolutely incredible form, and no doubt she would have polled quite a few 3 voters, I would say, averaging 23.3 points per game, 11.1 rebounds, 4.6 assists, and 1.4 blocks as well, which will be a huge part of catching the attention of the votecasters. And then we go to someone who has been a breakout player this year already, Megan, in Maddie Freer from the Forestville Eagles. Now, Forestville would have had not as many wins this year so far, but no doubt Maddie Freer would have been up in the polling, and she's at 17.6 points per game at 19 years of age. She's an outright favourite for the Merv Harris Youth Award in my eyes at the moment, Megan. And then you've got, of course, from the Woodville Warriors, you've got Nicole Franson, the Trinity West University product out of Canada, having a great season. A couple of smaller, quieter games in recent times, but still polling very well, no doubt. 18.4 points per game and 12.9 rebounds. So they're the 4 at the moment, I think, that are the early favourites for the Halls medal, Megan.
And for the Woolacott medal, Tristan?
Yeah, again, another open race for them. I mean, we've got some familiar names there. We've got Alex Starling with 22.3 points per game, 12.3 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 2.4 steals, and 0.9 blocks as well. So getting amongst the blocks is Starling. But I wondered with Starling about whether he's getting some votes pinched off him by a few around him, like your Daniel Johnson. Sam Johns might have picked up a few early as well. We have a feeling down here in NBL1 Central. So you got to look at the teams that have some outstanding players that are leading the polling. So Yuan Stepney with 20 points, 6.9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2.1 steals for the Woodville Warriors, no doubt in that conversation. Brandon Jenkins from the Central District Lions having a very good season, 26.1 points, 4.6 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 3.4 steals. So really up there in the top 10 for a lot of the categories at the moment is Brandon Jenkins. And then you've got to go to some of those 36ers and NBL players, don't you? Mitch McCarron for the West Adelaide Bearcats. Just as they started to get motoring, he's probably picking up some votes now with 15 points, 8.4 rebounds, 6.9 assists, 4.3 steals, and 1.1 blocks per game. McCarron is stuffing the stat sheet, but I wouldn't be surprised if a few of the other Bearcats are picking up some votes off him as well. So in terms of the Woolacott side of things, Megan, we're looking at those players that are pinching votes off each other at the moment, but are starting to assume some dominance in their particular grade for the Woolacott medal.
Always a fascinating race when you've got players who are dominating, but they're part of teams that are doing pretty well on the stat sheet as well individually, where votes can be taken away from them. Tristan, thanks for the update. Enjoy the round coming up, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week on the NBL1 show.
No problem at all, Megan. Of course, games to watch this week in Pink Round, number 8. We've got the Southern Tigers up against the Sturt Sabers, 1v2 on the ladder. The Tigers on a 4-game winning streak and the Sabers unbeaten. That's going to be a cracker in the women's. And then, of course, in the men, West Adelaide Bearcats against the Forestville Eagles. How could you go past 1 versus 3 on the ladder? Both teams laden with NBL talent in McCarron, Drimmick, Spear, Ulbrich, Doyle, Mashar, Hulland. All of them have touched NBL territory at some point. And, of course, it's Pink Round. And we can't wait for that, Megan. It's going to be great to raise some money for the Breast Cancer Network. It's going to be super exciting this weekend.
Thank you. Time to talk all things NBL1 South, and when we do so with Matt Hickey. Welcome, Matt. Highlights are plenty in South at the weekend.
Yeah, massive round, that is for sure, so keen to get stuck into it.
Well, let's get stuck in. We'll start with the women because Callie Wilson is a living legend in Australian basketball, and she continues to produce her best for Bendigo.
Yeah, name that many, all basketball fans in this country should know. Callie Wilson, a big win for Bendigo against Hobart, 110-76. But Callie Wilson, with what I'm guessing is an NBL1 South record, maybe an NBL1 record, 19 assists. That is just a massive number. There were big numbers across the board in such a big win for Bendigo, but 11 points, 7 rebounds, 19 assists. It doesn't get much better than that.
She is amazing. She continues to produce her best. We're so lucky to have her playing in NBL1. Let's move across now because Cassidy Mercado has been a really great, solid performer in NBL1 for a few years now, and she put up a highlight to remember against Eltham.
She certainly did. Obviously started her NBL1 career at Ringwood, Cassidy, and she is playing for Nunawading now. And in a close one against Eltham, Nunawading ended up winning 74-71. Nunna were up by 3. Cassie Mahalko flew by on the up fake from Rebecca Pizzi, but then a bit of Manu Ginobili on James Harden's style a few years back in the NBA playoffs managed to come from behind, swat that thing out of the way, and came through with a win for Nunawading. A super clutch defensive play. She did also finish with 22 points and 8 rebounds, so it wasn't just those final few seconds where she had an impact.
Yeah, it's a huge game. And speaking of huge games, and you mentioned her, Beck Pizzi. Tell us about her stat line because it was one to remember.
It certainly was, and for most, it might not immediately jump out. You see 6.6 rebounds. What are you talking about, Matt? You've lost the plot. However, she almost managed to pull in the mythical 5x5 stat line. She finished with 6.6 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, 4 blocks. And a plus minus of plus 23, which was the best on the court, just quietly as well. To give you some context of how hard the 5x5 is to achieve at the professional level, Candace Parker was the first player in the WNBA to record one. That was in 2008, which was 11 years after its inception, and only 2 players in the NBA have multiple 5x5 games, and we know how much they love a stat in that competition.
And how about you? You love a stat. That's a great one. Great research there, Matt. Well done. Let's move across to the men's action now because there was another thriller, and this one was between Geelong and Mount Gambier.
Yeah, thrillers galore, that is for sure. Geelong ended up winners 106-105 against the Pioneers. Nick Marshall had he had 37 points as well, had a big and one late, managed to tie the game, had the chance to put the Pioneers ahead at the free throw line, couldn't quite make the free throw. They got another opportunity, but couldn't get it to go, handing Geelong the ball with 1.5 seconds on the clock. However, it was actually an infringement on the out-of-bounds play from Mount Gambier that resulted in a technical free throw for Geelong. That one went in thanks to Gabe Hadley, another guy who had a great game, 23, 6 and 6, and it was Geelong who walked away winners in what was a super high-scoring contest.
Speaking of close games, Dylan Stith was the match winner. Tell us about how he did it against Northwest Tassie.
Another name that should be very familiar to basketball fans in this region, that is for sure. Waverley 91-89 winners over Northwest Tassie. Stith had 32 and 12, but the one-legged fadeaway jumper to win the game on the buzzer is just what dreams are made of. It's such a tough look. It's shades of Dirk Nowitzki in it, that's for sure. But he managed to find the bottom of the net and give his team a big W.
He's been a huge inclusion for the Falcons, obviously coming across from Frankston, which is great to see. And finally, I love a bit of sentiment, and there was plenty of that as the Melbourne Tigers got a win again over Mount Gambier. But why was this game so special, Matt?
It was special because a big chunk of the 1993 NBL Championship winning Melbourne Tigers team was in attendance to watch this new crop come through. It's the 30-year reunion of that very famous victory over the Perth Wildcats. They had the big reunion on the Saturday night, and I'm impressed that they all, or most of them, managed to turn up on the Sunday, considering the reunion was the night before. But Melbourne, they turned up. It was a big win. I don't think many people would have predicted the outcome. 100-76 in front of that famous team, including Andrew Gaze and Leonard Copeland. And the big stat out of that one, the Melbourne Tigers put up 47 three-point shots, which is just outrageous. There were 83 across the game. They nailed 14 of those, and Mason Gaze had 26 and 9.
And that 1993 championship team would have been wrapped with the three throw attempts. That would have made them very happy. Now, Matt, if the MVP voting stops right now, who's leading it in both the men's and women's?
Yeah, super tough fields, I guess, in both. I thought it was a little more obvious in the women, and I'm going for Meg McKay. I thought she's been brilliant so far to start the season on what's been really the best team up there with Waverley in the competition so far. So she's averaging 24 points, 10 rebounds a game, and shooting the ball at 78% from the field, which through 7 games is almost unheard of. The lowest total she's had points-wise so far this season is 19, and she hasn't shot below 72% in a single game. The Frolings might be a little upset at that. Alicia's averaging 25 and 11. Keely's averaging 28 and 9. But at the moment, I've got to put Meg McKay in front for the women. For the men, normally people go straight to the point tallies to see who's leading that charge. I'm looking to a guy that is really the floor general for Frankston, but still manages to get his own. Lucas Barkey's averaging 16 points, 5 assists and 6 rebounds per game. He's getting everyone their shots, which is hard to do on such a star-studded roster. He's managing to get his own as well, and I think the floor general, for me personally, is the most valuable player in the men's conference.
Yeah, he's in hot form, that's for sure. Matt, before we let you go, what are you looking forward to in the round coming up?
Yeah, plenty of more big games in the round coming up. For the women, I like Friday night Mount Gambier. They sit 5-3 on the year 5th. They play the undefeated Waverley Falcons, who are 7-0 and having a blinding start to the season. I think that'll be a really exciting one to watch. And for the men, it's a bit of a mid-tier battle. Sandringham versus Keilor. There's plenty of talent across the board, plenty of NBL experience in there as well. And I think that'll be really important going forward in that mid-pack battle.
Looking forward to both those clashes. Enjoy the round. Thanks again, Matt, and we'll see you next week.
Always a pleasure. Cheers.
Some massive individual performances in the West at the weekend, and to talk us through it is our man over there, Greg Heyer. Welcome, Greg. Take us through these massive stat lines in the men's conference.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Friday night it started. I was eagerly had the split screen on with the KO game of the week, Willetton Tigers versus the Joondalup Wolves, and eagerly sort of looking around the was going across NBL1 West, and Devondrick Walker was turning it up. He had 20 points in the first quarter, or 19, and your biggest fear in that moment is it doesn't turn out as a blowout. That's what's been happening consistently throughout the whole season, is that Rockingham are beating teams within the first quarter and the guys get to rest. In the end, Devondrick Walker, also known as Tuss, drops a 50-piece. There was a little bit of controversy because as I was scrolling through it, it sort of said he had 47 points, and then their social media said he had 51, and I was eagerly refreshing all throughout the night, and he ended up getting the first 50 ball for the night. And I tweeted, I said, Devondrick Walker, give him Player of the Week, Footlocker Player of the Week. There you go, get yourself a pair of new shoes. But along the same line, or same time, Quentin Dove from the Joondalup Wolves explodes. He has 43 points, 13 rebounds in a massive comeback win against the Willetton Tigers. Like, they had no right to win that game, and it was literally Quentin Dove's play. And We're going to talk about MVP candidates, and you can't go by those two. Like, it was just we talk about storylines, and I'm a massive Hollywood sort of fan, and you're getting that right now with those two high caliber players. And speaking to Devondrick throughout this week, he's using the first part of the game, as a training session to sort of an audition to NBL teams that I can play at that next level. And if it comes down to crunch time, he plays his normal style. But we saw 50 points from him, 43 from Quinton Dove. And then on Saturday night, Brenton Hobbs explodes in the first half. Courtney Alexander, both of them have 25 and 27. So it is getting hot over here in the NBL1 West, and I'm loving the stat lines that I saw across the weekend.
Some massive performances, Devondrick Walker in sensational form as usual. We'll get to that MVP chat shortly, but can you take us through the rest of some of the men's highlights from the weekend?
Yeah, I think two teams really staked their claim. We spoke about that. The Joondalup Wolves, they had a massive weekend. They really need to. They haven't been playing well, to their standards, I guess, from a recruiting standpoint. But they go against Willerton on Friday night. Again, Mark Worthington really inspired that group, and I thought they were going to run away with the win. Foul trouble for Gorjak Gak really hurt them late in the game, and maybe a bit of a unique substitution. Damien Scott, who's on an absolute tear, came out with 6 minutes left, and then Joondalup came home flying. So that was a massive win for them to get on the Friday night. And then they backed it up against Coburn Cougars on Saturday. Coming back, they weren't looking like they had momentum. Some huge players. CJ Turnage, he's sensational. He was all NBL1 last year. He was really consistent. Quinton Dove had a quieter game, but massive for them. And then the same two teams, Perry Lakes and Eastern Suns. I want to speak on Eastern Suns. They had a record of 4-18 last year. They're sitting at 5-3, and they had two big wins. More so Sunday night, backing it up. I was watching the game on Saturday night. Joe Cook-Green, he's been playing some sensational basketball. He made some big plays come on the back end of that Saturday night game. But Sunday, they beat Warwick Senators, who have been plodding along, but that's a championship contender, top four. And so that would do the world of good for Aaron Shahir and his group. Seb Salinas, who is about to eclipse 500 games, he just keeps plodding along. But our man for Menza and Joe Cook-Green, they're really inspiring that group, and so really pleasing to see maybe not your typical clubs winning games. For them to go 2-0 and 5-3 this year, early in the part of the year, really positive steps for that club.
Let's move over to the women's side of things now, because there was a top of the table clash. It was highly anticipated, and the team that has been undefeated remains unbeaten in 2023.
Yeah, you're right. Most of the eyes you would have thought would have been on the coronation, but everyone over here was watching Coburn Cougars versus the Joondalup Wolves on the battle of the undefeated. And unfortunately, we had an incredible woman, Nashaya Parker-Williams, suffer an injury on Friday night, so she missed the game, and she was in sensational form. But yeah, a little bit of a controversial ending, I guess, or an ending that you don't want. Robbie Ryan, who we all know is an absolute incredible player, received a personal foul with about 5 minutes 20 with Coburn with the lead. She was upset and received a technical foul, and unfortunately she fouled out. So, I would have loved to, I was hoping the back end of that game, you would have seen two of those, incredible outfits, full strength, go at it. But Coburn behind Steph Gorman and Sarah Mortensen, they were dominant, and they have been throughout the season. And we sort of spoke about it before. They still got pieces to add. So that's their biggest test thus far, and they responded really well on their home court. Now they sit at 5-0. Joondalup had a really still solid weekend. Like, they beat Willerton Tigers on the Friday night in a dominating fashion. As much as the scoreboard doesn't reflect that, they had the game the whole time and really, I guess, set it out there. So, yeah, really, if you're looking at predictions, from what I'm looking at right now, those two are staking their claims as grand finals for this season.
I want to talk to you about Mackenzie Clinch-Hoycard, because she is a real emerging player in the WNBL. She put up a double-double at the weekend, and I saw a great highlight on the NBL1 Instagram of her just putting up a massive three. She's in some great touch.
I'm not sure if the highlight was more of her hitting a three or the commentator absolutely bursting eardrums throughout the broadcast. That excitement levels was thoroughly entertaining. But you're exactly right, Meg. You know, that's another player I know the Perth Lynx want to retain, but I'm sure is not only gaining interest across Australia, but overseas in Europe, and hopefully she remains here. But you're right. You know, they started slow. They're the champions. You know, not only just NBL1, they were the national champions. Stacey Barr hasn't been playing on a consistent basis. They've just brought in a new import, Carly Murphy, who I think will certainly help Mackenzie Clinch-Hoycard. She's averaging 19 and 10 in their first two games. But they're plodding along now. Like, you know, they started the year pretty slow for what they would have liked, but now they've won 4 games alongside, you know, the other team, Rockingham Flames, who are championship contenders, and they've just brought in Mary Cracker, who just had an MVP sort of game. So those two players, Mackenzie Clinch-Hoycard and Taya Borrows, this off season, I guess in the WNBL, is huge for them. And you know, like I think Clinch-Hoycard averaging 16 and 13 throughout the season. She's a sneaky MVP candidate. I think there's too much talent in her team, and I don't think they'll lose a few games along the way to get there. But I think for her, she's, you know, similar to like a Devondrick Walker. In order for her, maybe even to prove that Ryan Petrick, hey, if there's a player that you don't retain, and I obviously don't have the inside word like a Chloe Bibby or an Amy Atwell, she has the ability to step in and take those minutes. And I think she's doing all those right things at the moment.
Let's begin the MVP conversation because we've been teasing it over the last few weeks. Greg Heyer, I want your top contenders for both MVP in the women's and men's for NBL1 West right now.
Yeah, for the women's, I mean, we've been mentioning their names every week. Tage Morrell and Robbie Ryan from the Joondalup Wolves. I think, you know, Tage averaging 21 points and 11 rebounds from 55% from the field. She'll be up there. They'll get wins. I think they'll drop less than a handful of games, 3 and 4. Whether her and Robbie Ryan still enough votes off each other. People forget Robbie Ryan was leading the race until she got injured at the back end of the season with that calf strain. You know, and then you've got Sarah Mortensen at the Cougars, which will similar be, you know, they're going to steal votes with how stacked they are. Jewel Williams, Jessie Edwards, and then bringing in Paddy Brosman. But my MVP and standout is going to be Alex Sharp. You know, 23 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists. She's third in the league in scoring, which she will be first soon because Paris Duffield's second after one game and Sammy Whitcomb is first. So once, you know, at the end of the season, she'll go there and she's first in rebounds. So look, I think she's just by far ahead of it. I don't think she'll miss too many games because unlikely she's in a sort of an Asia Cup, squad. She's not a 3x3 forward, which is a lot of these players sort of miss those games. So if you're going a per game basis, I think Alex Sharp, and they'll be thereabouts. They'll continuously get better, and you're sort of seeing there. She's incredible. Her ability, I think she can shoot better. She knows she can shoot better, but they'll be my standout candidate. Going to the men's side, it starts with those two, Quinton Dove and Devondrick Walker, with Gorjak Gak sort of leading behind them by a few votes. What might hurt Devondrick is those blowout wins and just the absolute stack of talent that Rockingham Flames have. Like Jeremy Combs will still votes, Marshall Nelson will still votes, and then Ryan Godfrey will pop up, same as Tom Jervis, and then you've got a Justin Beard or a Travis Durnan. You know, like that. That's just an abundance of talents for a lineup right there. Quinton Dove's only really going to go against CJ Turnage, and you know he's averaging, like great numbers, 23 and 11 to start out with, and he's got these huge games, and that's the thing. Like even when CJ Turnage has 28 points, Quinton Dove's got 43, so he's going to go there. The other thing, and most people don't really, this is why I reckon I wasn't really high on the MVP candidates when I had great years. He doesn't argue with the refs. I think that actually helps players out, like same as Devondrick Walker. They remain level-headed, you know, and I remember having a chat with one year when I had arguably my best year ever, and I was mid-tier, and I said, am I hurting myself? And they said, you absolutely are. Guys that don't argue with referees are going to be seen in a more positive light. And so for anyone watching, hey, if you want to be an MVP candidate, just reel it in a little bit. So, yeah, look, I think Devondrick and Quinton Dove, Gorjak Gak will be there as well. A sneaky MVP, Joe Cook-Green from Kalamunda. Ullman from Monza is the only guy that might take votes. But if he continues his play, I spoke about players that can transition to the next level, that have the right skills. Joe Cook-Green's that guy. And the way he continues to play, he could definitely be a worthy MVP candidate.
And finally, Greg, a massive milestone this week for one of your former teammates.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Meg. Ryan Godfrey, or also more commonly known as Buff, exceptional player for the NBL1, club stalwart, and actually a league legend, realistically. We spoke on the previous show, Casey Milovic, what she's done for the league. Ryan Godfrey went across to the United States, played for West Georgia, and has come back for the Flames, and unfortunately didn't enjoy too much success until recent years. And for a guy that's played at a very high level to come back and continue playing at an exceptional level of play, I think shows a lot for young juniors coming through. Like, it doesn't always have to be, play for the Perth Wildcats for 10 years or whatever it may be. Like, you can still have an incredible career at whatever level you choose to play at. But he's, for a guy that doesn't say much on court, he's an exceptional leader, still playing at a very high level and really bleeds, I guess, that Rockingham red, as they like to say. So an incredible achievement, 300, and hopefully another championship for that side at the back end of this year.
A great story, a great person, a great basketballer. Congratulations, Ryan. Greg, thanks so much for the chat. Enjoy the weekend coming up, and we'll see you again next week.
My absolute pleasure. Looking forward to it.